Just another girl. Just another girl in the Artistic Gymnastics Academy. Everything is slightly blurred between the first memories of my childhood. Although many years have passed, I not only remember my parents together, in fact, I remember them happy. I guess there are things that a 4-year-old boy doesn't realize, although I also remember very clearly the moment when my father brought my brother, my sister and me together to tell us that they were going to get divorced and that regardless of whether we lived together or apart, they would still be our parents and they would always love us. On that occasion, he told us that we would have to choose who we wanted to live with. I think that as far as possible, it was a civilized divorce, because normally those decisions are not made by the children but by the judges. In the end, my older brother, 8 years old, decided to live with my father, and my sister Anna Lilia and I, Mario, 6 and 4 years old, stayed to live with my mother. Without a doubt, for adults, it was as difficult as any divorce, but for us, I think it wasn't so bad. I spent every weekend with my father and during the week, my sister and I went to school in the morning and played with our neighbors in the evenings. In general, I was a happy boy, so I don't think I can blame anyone for anything, at least not to divorce and not about my gender issues, because even before the separation, when I perceived that everything was working well at home, my sister's room and things especially caught my attention. I know it was not a sexual issue, not only because I was 4 years old but because from that age, I remember that I really liked my kindergartner, Kathy. It's real, she made me nervous and it was hard to talk every time she was around. I liked everything she did. I perfectly remember her green eyes, her smile and how her dress moved when she walked or turned. I thought she was beautiful and I loved how she dressed. Her dresses and skirts, her stockings, her shoes and her hairstyles. I don't know if that made me think about how I would look in those clothes, but I remember this day when I walked into my sister's room while everyone was downstairs. I don't think I even thought about it. I went directly to her closet, I looked at her clothes and took out a skirt and her panties. In a second glance, I also took out a blue dress that I had always liked. I closed the door of her room and as fast as I could, I took off my shorts and my boxers and tried on her panties. The feeling of that fabric on my skin fascinated me from the first moment. I didn't want to take them off or wear boys' clothes ever again, but I saw myself in the mirror and something was wrong. There was a lump that shouldn't be there, it got in the way. I sat on my sister's bed and I didn't know what to do. I tried to push it so it wouldn't be seen. I wanted to rip it off. It wouldn't let me be the girl I wanted. Finally I pulled it back. I hid it between my legs, and I pulled up my panties. I went back to the mirror and for the first time, I saw the girl who would slowly grow up in my life. I returned for the skirt and I put it in front of the mirror even with the boy's shirt I was wearing. What I saw in front of me was exactly the girl I wanted to be. I don't know how long I stared at it. I remember moving from side to side and turning to see how the skirt moved. Then I thought about putting on the blue dress. But even with the innocence of being 4 years old, I knew it wasn't right. I stuck my head out the door to see if someone was approaching and although my mom, brother and sister were still downstairs, I didn't dare. Returning the panties and skirt to my sister's drawers, I put on my shorts and left the room with a strange combination of fascination and guilt. In the middle of that school year, the separation came. My mom, sister, and I moved into an apartment and my mom started working full-time for the local TV station. In the mornings, she would drop us off at school. My sister was in first grade and I was in the second grade of kindergarten. Because of her work at the television station, my mom couldn't pick us up before 5 o'clock, so when we finished classes, my sister had an artistic gymnastics academy and since there were no extracurricular activities for kindergarteners, the idea was that I would wait for her while I watched her class, but from the first day, when the coach called all the girls to start stretching exercises, I lined up with them. The coach saw me as her student's little brother and as long as I followed her instructions, she didn't seem to mind that I took the class. The truth is, I never knew if my mom also paid for me to take the class. Weeks went by and pretty soon it became my favorite time of day. I was waiting for the regular classes to end to eat lunch with my sister and her friends and start the Artistic Gymnastics Academy. The only thing I didn't like was having to wear my shorts and sports shirt instead of the leotards that the other girls wore. Little by little I learned at the same pace as the girls. First, floor exercises, handstands, cartwheels, flick-flack, and round-off. After a few months, I was able to do the split and I was proud of it. In the following months, we started practicing combinations of exercises and working on the balance beam as well. I think it was at this stage that I started to envy the other girls in the academy. Don't get me wrong, but I was 5 years old and I was just trying to do things the best I could. My points of comparison were my sister, who I deeply admired, and my classmates. So it was a bit annoying when after a pirouette on the balance beam, The other girls could land with their legs spread on the sides of the beam and the teacher wouldn't let me even try. "You could break something," she said. Although I was only 5 years old, I understood what she meant, but I only told her that nothing was going to happen to me. I never dared to tell her that I already knew what was bothering me or that I had already taken care of hiding it before class so it won't get in the way. I also began to find it frustrating that at the end of a combination, the girls raised their arms palms out and gracefully rotated femininely to both sides. Of course, I did the same, but the teacher always corrected me and said that I had to finish the exercises with my fists clenched or my palms facing in to see myself as a man and not as a girl. I think that comment from the teacher, repeated several times, was what made me sure, from that age, that I didn't want to see myself as a man. At 5 years old, without any sexual element in the subject, I knew that I did not want to see myself as a man but as a girl. Until that point, the Rhythmic Gymnastics Academy was nothing more than an activity that I enjoyed and nothing more. I had not questioned anything about wanting to be a boy or a girl, but from there, I began to become aware of the differences between boys and girls. It wasn't just being able to wear a leotard, which I loved, it was how they moved, how people treated them, how they smiled, how they moved their heads and moved their hair when they greeted or said goodbye with a smile. I was fascinated by girls and everything related to them. The life situation with my mother and my sister made it easier for me to become very attached to my sister and to be like the attaché when I was with her friends. I began to try to be part of her group, to pay attention to her talks and to play with them girls' games such as the hopscotch or the gras w gumi. I think because of my age, nobody saw it as weird, it was just the little brother playing with the older sister and her friends. The only thing my sister never let me participate in was when she played with her dolls, but apart from that, little by little I became another girl in the group, to the point where the teacher stopped correcting my exits, in which I tried to be the most feminine of all. On the other hand, all my need to be one more girl in the group was satisfied during class hours and at the Rhythmic Gymnastics Academy. When I got home, my sister went out with her friends and I played with Charlie, a neighbor with whom I got along very well. Even when I went out with my mom and sister to a restaurant, it was common for the waiter, after asking my mom what she was going to eat, to ask something like, "And for the ladies?" At that time, I still acted offended and answered in the manliest voice possible, "I'm a boy, and I want an apple juice." They usually answered with a surprised face, "Sorry, he's too cute for a boy." Comment that at first annoyed me, but over time it caused me a certain feeling of pride. This was my second year of kindergarten. During the summer holidays I managed to avoid getting my hair cut. We played with the neighbors, we went on different weekend trips with my dad. A couple of gymnastics competitions in which I could not participate because there was no category for my age, they said. The annoying thing was that I saw girls my age participating and nobody told me why I couldn't enter if I did better than them. The following school year began, my sister in 2nd grade and I in pre-first, which was a requirement for being a bilingual school. With my sister and her friends, everything was the same, the recesses were at different times, but since my mother left us at school, almost always more than an hour before the entrance until the bell rang, I was with them doing whatever they did, and as soon as the normal class time was over I would run to look for her. It began to happen to me that some talks I didn't understand very well, because they began to talk about boys. Until that moment, the only person I had liked physically was my friend Kathy from 1st grade and kindergarten. So when they talked about their 4th or 5th grade mini crushes, I looked at them very carefully to see if I could see them as handsome as the girls said they were, but no, I saw them as any other boy, without grace, without any attraction, and always poorly dressed. Since I really wanted to be one more girl in the group, I really tried to see them as handsome. I paid attention to their features, their eyes, and their muscles, which the girls said were the best. The most I managed to do was recognize that some were less unpleasant, that some had a nice smile or were slightly more attractive, but I didn't understand why they were seen as handsome. I assumed that it was a matter of age and that later on, I would see them as the other girls saw them. The Rhythmic Gymnastics Academy continued and I returned to my attempt to be just another girl in the group. In fact, when we ordered the new uniform leotard for my sister, I asked my mom if she could request mine too.